we were always kind of trained to style a house to feel like the owner just stepped out and the reader could just step in. And I think that's definitely how I've continued to approach just sort of dressing the home for the owners in the first place, and then kind of the styling of it. So I would just say pay for them, as much as you can afford for a good photographer, and kind of look at the magazines and look at who the photographers are.
Hi, I'm Beth Beesky, the founder of More Time to Design and your host of the Design Dialogues podcast. I've been a designer for the last 12 years and I've run my own studio for 5, and I know how hard it is to run a successful business. You not only need to be great at designing, but you need to be great at all the other things as well. I created More Time to Design, a software platform to help designers run efficient studios, and I've created the Design Dialogue podcast to help us all learn together. Each week, we will meet professionals who are at the top of their game doing things that help us run our studios. We'll have conversations with social media managers, interior design mentors, copywriters, stylists, photographers, suppliers, and also designers who have been in the game for a long time and who have such a wealth of knowledge to share. I hope that each week you feel inspired and informed at the end of each of our design dialogues. So join me for the Design Dialogue podcast. Welcome to episode 19 of the Design Dialogues podcast. This week I am talking with Kate Nixon. Kate is a designer, stylist and editor with both her interior studio and her beautiful homewares boutique, showcasing her iconic and classic style. This episode is the first in a 2-part series. The second episode, which will come out next week, is with Adam Jones from Quercus & Co. Kate and Adam have just released their collaboration of fabrics and wallpapers, and I loved hearing the two narratives about the process and how they work together. This dialogue with Kate is filled with so much, from her perspective of running a design studio and the systems she has in place to do this and the different challenges she has faced in the business. Kate also shares her insights from working as the interiors editor at House and Garden magazine on what to think about when you are approaching a magazine with a project. Kate was such a delight to chat to. As you will hear at the start, we bonded over our rather chaotic mornings thanks to our kids, and how Kate's well-laid plans of recording the episode from a nice quiet space were waylaid, and so she comes to you today from her car. I think that says so much about Kate and how she just rolls with the punches and keeps going, both crucial things to be successful in business. If you haven't already seen the beautiful collaboration from Kate and Adam, please do go and check it out on the socials or in the flesh at the Elliott Clark showrooms around Australia. As always, if you are enjoying the podcast, I would love for you to leave a review. Reviews are one of the best ways for people to find the podcast. If you are unsure of how to leave a review, I will put in the show notes some simple instructions to follow. I really do appreciate you taking the time to leave a review. Now, I really hope you enjoy my dialogue with Kate Nixon. Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Design Dialogues. And this week I am joined by Kate Nixon. How are you, Kate?
I'm very well, thank you, Beth. How are you?
Good. So I love to start each episode by finding out what people can see out their window today.
Well, as we've just discussed, I've been running late from a meeting and I'm sitting in my car parked on the side of New South Head Road, talking to you today. Not very inspiring, sorry, but it's a beautiful day, sunshine and trees and yeah.
Yes. For everyone, before we press record, Kate and I were both just talking through the challenges of it doesn't seem to matter how well planned out you've got things, kids can really just throw a massive bomb into those plans. So we're both coming from maybe not the most organized this morning.
Yeah, we're adapting. I had listened to a really good speech last night, Beth, which talked about the privilege of challenges and how we are evolving in real time. And I was like, yep, that's
wow, that is a really interesting concept.
It really helped me a lot, actually. It was a very good perspective shift that I needed.
Yeah, I love that. Oh wow, that's a whole other episode, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
So for anyone who doesn't know, I would love to hear about your business and how you've gotten to where you are today, because you are just not an interior design studio. You have a whole other part to your business. So tell us a little bit about how you've gotten where you are today.
So the business today is called Kate Nixon, and it consists of an interior design studio and a retail store in Bayswater Road in Rushcutters Bay. We have a custom soft furnishing service that we run out of the retail store, and we have been doing some super exciting developments on product design and collaborations, which I think we'll kind of get into a little bit more later. So that's the culmination of 15 years that I've had the business now, and it's gone through many evolutions. The business started in 2007 as a retail store called Versati, importing Italian fabrics from the most beautiful 8th generation Italian family in Tuscany. Called Versati. We just, on a very serendipitous holiday to Europe, my husband and I discovered them, and they had no one in Australia, and we thought, why not? We should give that a go. So we opened a store in Transvaal Avenue in Double Bay in 2007, and that's kind of where the journey began. So the selling of the fabric and the ready-made pieces very quickly evolved into a custom service, as we discovered no one actually wanted 1 meter of fabric. They wanted curtains or blinds or a bed head so we quickly kind of evolved and grew this custom side, which we still have today, and then that evolved into the interior design studio as we were doing curtains and blinds and cushions, and then they would want some bedside tables and a rug and the kitchen and a whole house renovation, and so that's how the team and the business has grown over the years. And kind of alongside of that, I have worked for 20 years for House and Garden magazine, originally in capacity of a food stylist, and then a interior stylist and a writer, and then houses editor, and then interiors editor. So that was also a very serendipitous beginning. I moved down to Sydney in 2005 after 2004 after getting married to my husband. I was in Queensland. I'm a Queenslander originally, and he was my flying instructor, is how we met, and he taught me how to fly. And he moved down to Sydney. We got married. I moved down to Sydney, and one of his co-pilots was married to the then deputy editor of House and Garden, Maya Collette. They came to our house for drinks. She liked how I had done the food and asked would I be interested in some food styling, and that's how there's lots of serendipitous moments of good luck and fortune meeting a hell of a lot of hard work, Beth. I work a lot.
That's amazing. So there's a couple of things that have come out that I want to talk to you about. So I want to talk to you about how you run, because how big is your team?
We are I think 10 or 11 full time. We have three I think part time, and then we have a few kind of contractors who are kind of regular, kind of across like marketing and finance and HR. So it's probably in round numbers around 14 or something.
So how do you make sure you feel like a designer and a creative? Because obviously that is a big part of who you are, and not just someone who is managing people.
Well, I actually love the people side. I think I'm lucky that I love the people side. And I've always loved the business side of it. So I'm actually not a qualified interior designer, and I can't draw CAD, and I don't have the technical skills that you absolutely need to do this job. So I think because of that, and because of my background in styling and having to employ those people around me who have the skills that I do not, that it's sort of, I have a different approach to this career, and absolutely love interiors, very passionate about the ability to kind of affect everyday joy. That's kind of our mantra, and I do truly believe that the work that we do in interior design space can really affect and change people's ability to enjoy their life. So I think that the process of that and having to have always from the beginning had staff to do all of that I cannot do has kind of given me a different perspective of that. And we also run our business on a system called EOS, which I heard about on a podcast, an American system, entrepreneurs operating system, which is just a basic way of structuring the business. And we've been doing that now for over 2 years, maybe nearly 3 years, and that has really, really transformed that balance for me in that it's given us a structure and a template to follow, and a way, like a meeting pulse. They talk about kind of keeping the circles connected so that you kind of have enough to touching base with everybody in the team, that everyone knows what's going on, but they have enough autonomy to get on and do their job. And it's a very simple thing, but it has really given me the ability, I feel, to have the right balance between doing the creative design stuff and also kind of having the feeling like there's a book with EOS that you read called Get a Grip, and on the back of the book it says, do you have a grip on your business, or does your business have a grip on you?
Yes.
And I was like, oh, when I read that, nodding my head. And I feel like that's what's really changed. And I do feel like as best I can, I feel like we do have a grip on the business now. We do understand what's going on. The team, it's an open book policy. The team is very connected to the goals and the visions and the numbers, and it's pretty cool. It's awesome to have everybody kind of rowing in the same direction and talking about right people and right seats, and
that's awesome.
all the fundamentals
because I can imagine like that. Does your business have a grip on you, or you have a grip on the business? I feel like a lot of business owners would be like, oh my God, that resonates so much, kind of thing, because that's such a struggle for people when they, especially I suppose if they've started as a solo person, and then they kind of, the path usually is you get some projects, and then you get a larger project and you need to take on, and it's never usually like a planned expansion. It's more, like as the work flows. But I suppose for you, it's been a little bit more opposite, because you kind of are stepping back a little bit and kind of do have that bird's eye view, because you have had to outsource the kind of technical side from day one. Does that make it feel like it's been a little bit more strategic, your growth, like when you kind of do have that kind of bird's eye view?
I'd say definitely for the last few years that we've been running on EOS, absolutely, because the first part of that process, you kind of workshop your core values and your core purpose, and you talk about the organizational chart, which was non-existent when we started, and who does what, and you realize, oh, I do everything. That's what's wrong. So that's really an eye-opener. And there are 3 core functions to every business. There's sales and marketing, there's operations, and there's finance. And that was a massive eye-opener for me, because we think we're in design. We're like, well, we design. Like, where's the sales and marketing? What's the operations? Where's the finance? It's just design. And then one of my team was like, Kate, a concept is a pitch. Like, that's a sales pitch. And I'm like, really? And I think when you passionately believe what you do, you don't think of it that way. But actually, that makes the best salesperson, I've realized. I actually love sales because it's solving problems, and it's listening, a lot of listening, and it's trying to give people good solutions. And when you do that well, it's so rewarding, because you see the impact on their lives. So I've completely changed my opinion about sales, and I try with every talk to other interior designers to have the same conversation, because I think it's something that we never talk about in the industry. We never think about it, but it's essential, actually. If you don't have sales, you can't do your job. So I think that that perspective has definitely come from there. And then you set your 10-year goal, your 3-year goal, your 1-year target, and then your 90-day targets. And then we have a 1-day workshop every 90 days to review those targets, and then a 2-day workshop once a year to kind of try to take a step back and say, is the 10-year goal still right? Is the 3-year goal? And then so you kind of feel a lot more, I guess, in control about the direction, and whether you want to grow or not grow, or whatever the goal is, it's doesn't matter. It's just as long as you feel like you're working toward what you want, as opposed to, yes, the business running away from you. And you started in this industry because you wanted to design, and then you've ended up with this beast that doesn't let you design at all.
Yeah. Wow, that is really interesting. Really, really interesting. And I suppose this actually leads into kind of what else I was going to ask you from that. Was, you mentioned, so you've been in business for 15 years, which is a long time. And you said, it's looked different at many points along that path. What has been some of the things that you've kind of gone, I hate the word learnings, but I'm going to use it, like, as you've got to a point where the business has changed and you've kind of gone, oh, we're at this junction, and I'm assuming it's maybe past the point, or maybe it's like, oh, it's hard to identify when you're in it. But what have been some of those things that have made you go, this is not working, we need to change and we need to look at different things? Like, I suppose the point when you said, people don't want a meter of fabric, they want a curtain. That would be one of those things. Has a lot of it been like the business just hasn't been there, or it's been you've wanted to do something different, like you've kind of felt like you've gone down a path and you're like, I don't actually like doing this, like I don't want to do it anymore, I want to do something else? Like, how have you, I suppose, identified those points in your path when you've gone, this is not working, we need to change?
I think it's always, I'm a big, I'll give anything a try, and I won't give up until like completely forced to. So I think a lot of that comes from that. It's just pushing on doors, and some open and some don't. And so I think a lot of that, and I do remember in the early day, I think like after year one, the business lost money for 3 years, and my husband was, after about 6 months of that, when are you going to call this? This isn't working. And I was like, well, I haven't tried everything yet. I'm happy to call it. I don't want to flog a dead horse. Like but I won't give up till I've tried everything. And I still have this long list of things that we haven't tried yet. So, so as it kind of, every year it got better, and it got better and got better, which was enough encouragement for me to go, well, it's not going backwards, we're going forwards. So we just keep trying, and we, it's just, our accountant always used to say kind of the rocket ship's on track to the moon, like 1% of the journey, or not even, like it's constantly course correcting, and that's life, you constantly course correct. So it's sort of, so, and that's the cathartic part of the EOS, is that every week you have these departmental meetings and you flush out the issues. You spend 60 minutes of a 90-minute meeting resolving issues.
Yeah, wow.
And so it's like, what are the issues? What are the issues? What are the issues? And because the issues are inevitably the opportunities. So it's, invoicing's taking too long. Why is it taking too long? Can we be smarter? Is there something we need to fix in the process? Is there something? So it's just whatever. I think it's just been a constant effort to improve, I think, has kind of led us to where we are, and confronting issues all the time, so that we can try to always make things better.
And I suppose that's something that I think is kind of, I suppose, the nutshell, isn't it? It is confronting issues and fixing them, not turning a blind eye to them and going, oh, they'll sort themselves out, because they never do, and they just get worse.
Which is easier said than done, of course, but it's the goal. And I think as long as I think, we can always do better, but it's definitely, it's a nice way to approach life, I think, and business, for sure, and clients. And one of our core values is don't be afraid. So very much about, if you see something, or you think something, like, don't sit and tell us about it 3 months later. Like, speak up. And the same with the clients. This is your home. If you don't love something, please don't feel intimidated to say yes to us. This is your home. Speak up. We're here for you. And and kind of just always trying to deliver better, more value, kind of how can we do a better job for the clients and for our team and our suppliers. And
that's really awesome. So one of the other things I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on is, so you've obviously got a wealth of knowledge in regards to magazines, and for designers, having their projects published in a magazine is kind of like a pinnacle of, acknowledgement, and it's quite often, on the top of the list for designers to get to. But that's getting harder and harder to achieve these days. There's less magazines. You really have to have the funds to be able to photograph them well to get into the magazines. What would be, and also I think social media is such a love-hate relationship for so many designers and all of that kind of stuff. What would be some of your tips for designers who are trying to get in front of a magazine? Like, what would be some of the things you would say to them?
I think for sure the power of photography
Yeah.
is so important. And I think, styling is also really essential. And I think that's such a, like a skill that I learned from the beginning, which I think it's just the finishing touches and making a space feel lived in and loved. And we were always kind of trained to style a house to feel like the owner just stepped out and the reader could just step in. And I think that's definitely how I've continued to approach just sort of dressing the home for the owners in the first place, and then kind of the styling of it. So I would just say pay for them, much as you can afford for a good photographer, and kind of look at the magazines and look at who the photographers are, and reach out through there or through Instagram, that how important the styling is, and kind of looking through the camera and editing that shot to what you like. So you can move the furniture around, you can bring flowers in, you can bring props in, and if you don't like the couch in the corner, don't shoot that. Shoot shoot what you like. So it's better to have 3 great shots than 10 bad ones. So so you're editing and kind of putting forward your perspective of that project and of that work. And in terms of getting published, I think it's just kind of looking in the front of the magazine, look at the masthead. The email addresses are there, the phone numbers are there, reach out, even if it is just happy snaps that you have and you haven't been able to do like the professional photography. We will get lots and lots of submissions which are happy snaps, which is just stand in the corner of the room, point and shoot. I mean, we can all see past that to know, if the project could be suitable for the magazine, and then the mag could then send out a team to photograph it as well. So there's different avenues of doing that, but I think just having to, like, taking the photos, you kind of have that creative control, I guess, of how that project is presented. And I think even on like building Instagram, which is basically your portfolio of work, it's, even if it's not your work and you're kind of crediting other people's projects that inspire you or products that inspire you, all that kind of gives people who are following you an idea of your taste and your aesthetic, and that's essentially kind of what you're trying to build, so that you attract people to you who have the same aesthetic and want you to create something for them.
And I suppose as well, identifying the right magazines to approach for the style of project is really important as well.
Because they do, there's definitely more kind of architectural magazines and more decorative magazines. So I think you can tell, looking through whatever your favorite mags are is probably a good place to start. But I think it's just, don't be afraid to send your work out, and give a bit of a backstory there's always a story with a house feature. So also a few points about when it was built. Is it a reno or a new build? Is there an interesting kind of backstory to it? And just those sort of dot points in the imagery, and keep trying, don't give up.
I was going to say, I think the most important part is to just keep going. Like, it might be a no the first time, but just they need to fill the pages of the magazine. So
and the no is not ever, or not like it's, so there could be so many reasons for the no. It could be we have 50 houses on file right now and we just can't run anymore. It could be the next 3 issues are all renos and that one's a new build. It could be we need one from New South Wales this month and yours is from WA. There could be just so many other reasons behind that, to just never feel disheartened by that, and just keep trying.
And the other thing that I'd be interested to know, what is the kind of time frame for when you first reach out to when it may be published? Like, how quickly or long is that process?
That's a great question, Beth. That could just really be as long as a piece of string, because if that's the right project that just landed and there's a potential cover in there, it could be whipped in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Or they could just be sitting around for like 2 years sometimes waiting for the right place to run it. I think that happens less these days because the mags are running more houses. But it's such a difficult, and it was a very difficult thing to manage from inside, as an editor, as a houses editor. I think it's a very tough job for all the magazine editors, because it's just, there's so many shifting factors that affect it. Book size could change, and then all of a sudden one that was going to run gets dropped, or something else comes in and there's an advertising thing connected and now it has to run and this one gets dropped. And there's just so many other factors that affect when it's going to run, that it's very hard to communicate, and to the poor designers who just can't wait for it to run. And
because
we can't wait either, but it's
because you kind of have to sit on those images for who knows how long.
It is yes, the tricky part of publishing.
So tell me a little bit about the product side of your business. So it obviously started with this beautiful Italian fabric, and it has grown into a lot more than that. How do you decide which products to bring into the business, and do you find inspiration? Like, how does that side of the business work?
So I think the product has very much come from it's a really nice circle of life with the studio and the product and the store, because we find things for a project that we want to put in the store, or that we find things for the store that we want to put in a project. So it's like a moving warehouse, a pretty warehouse of products that's open to the public. So that works really nicely in the business kind of, as a whole. But we often try to design things. That's kind of where the kind of product collection designs have started coming from, because we always trying to do something different in the projects, and can't find something ready made, and designing furniture or lighting or fabric or whatever we're kind of trying to create for the studio projects, which will then kind of often lead into a product that we sell into the store.
Is that how the collaboration with Adam at Quercus & Co came about? Were you wanting a specific wallpaper design for a project, and then that led into a much bigger collaboration?
It was actually just through one of our consultants who works with us on licensing, who kind of put us together more so. But we have used Adam's wallpaper in projects before, and I knew of him for a long time through the magazine world as well, using his product in photo shoots. So it was just like a super, again, sort of serendipitous connection that worked out really beautifully for both of us.
And so tell me a little bit about that collection. What was the inspiration behind the design?
So when we met with Adam and we talked about what was possible in terms of kind of his creative process and their manufacturing process, and kind of what we kind of looked at our interiors and what we kind of love in terms of colors and tones and textures. And I had this collection of images and shells and seaweed and like kind of all these like things that I've just, not with anything in mind, but I've always kind of just collected and been drawn to, and kind of went through that with him, and he was like, oh, that's amazing, we could do this and this. So it was sort of this like nature essentially inspired collection, but really exploring textures with markings. Like, he's such an amazing creative artist, and his process is so intricate. Like, when you kind of see the designs and see how they're made and understand the workings of it, it's super cool. He's very clever with these individual markings and charcoal and painting and drawing, and so it was kind of really about trying to explore texture and that kind of tactile feeling within a printed product. And the designs are sort of reflective of kind of all these natural materials that that kind of I'd collected and we've gone through together. And the one design, I don't know if he mentioned it to you, but it was the floral but I know that was kind of everything went very kind of easily. And this one particular one, I really kind of had this picture in my mind of what it should be. And it was kind of the one that took us a while to get there. But like, it's so nostalgic to me because my grandmas were both big gardeners, and I just really wanted to create like a floral that wasn't floral, more foliagey. And that one was kind of like, I think in the end we've called it smoke bush, but for a while it was called Grandma's Garden. I think it will always be that for me. Yeah, that kind of, I guess, just wanting to capture, like, we're so inspired in our interiors by nature and the tones and the textures, and it is a very kind of muted palette which Adam does so beautifully anyway. I think this is actually more color for him than what he normally does, but it's still, no primary colors to be seen here. But they all kind of work so beautifully together, and so beautifully with other textures and fabrics. We kind of always like to mix velvets and linens and leathers and all those kind of natural weaves together, and I think that the collection sits beautifully with those things as well as with each other.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. And because it was really interesting when I was talking to Adam about how it's one of the first times he's really kind of collaborated with someone on the designs. Normally it's very much him in his head and it's a process kind of thing. And I found it really interesting, that combination of creatives and pushing people and making people look at things in different ways. And it sounds like the floral one really was the one that kind of made him flip things around. So good things come when, pressure is applied.
Yeah.
So
But he was so open to the collaboration as well. I think that's why it's been so successful. I think for the both of us, it was no ego and just very much about making something beautiful together. And he was just so like, well, let's try this, and what about this, and are you happy with that, or I could do this, I could like take it a bit further. And even the photography process, because he photographed all the styled shots, so that was kind of also for me, that's like I've always got that in the end of my mind. And I think that was also a really cool process to do together, for him to kind of then see what I'd been thinking of all along kind of in reality, and working together on the shots. And it's been such a process of markings into repeats, into designs, into colorways, into into the final kind of actual styling and showing people how to use it. And it's been very fun.
Awesome. It sounds like a really good collaboration, because I think it sounds like you both kind of checked any ego at the door and both respected the strengths of the other and the technical knowledge of the other kind of thing. So it does sound like a very good collaboration, because you hear sometimes when they don't go so well.
Well, it's the first time for us too, really, in the process. And as you said, it was just very much kind of playing to your strengths, and and I guess kind of admiring that in each other. And that's a really good place to start, I think, any relationship.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, wow. Oh, awesome. I'm sure it'll be a very successful collaboration, and the designs sound beautiful. So what are some of the challenges you see for the interior design industry coming up?
Well, I know there's a big issue on the table at the moment, and because of a few family matters this week, I've kind of dropped the ball on a big Zoom meeting yesterday. But I know that the DA is doing a very big push at the moment across the registration and the building codes, and there's a lot of hot topics, I think, that are going to make a big change in the industry. And I think New South Wales is kind of leading the way. So I think that's kind of, to me, like the pressing issue at the moment around the matter of this group of professionals being recognised and registered, and kind of how that's impacting on the codes which are changing now. And I think that's kind of the number one topic right now.
It definitely is. Like, I know you see it being talked about a lot at in Facebook communities, and because it is it really will affect people's businesses a lot. So I think it's something that we all need to be very actively aware on. And I saw someone post recently, and she was like, don't let other people do it, because you could lose your business over it, kind of thing.
I think, I know there's some really awesome people who are behind it and rallying, and I have no doubt it will, move forward in the right way, but it definitely will be that with the support of everybody. So yeah, I think it's a big industry issue that everyone kind of needs to get read up about and get behind.
Yeah, definitely. And we've kind of touched on a few things kind of at the start of the chat, but what would be some advice you'd give to designers who are maybe thinking of starting their own business, if they've been, working for someone else for a while, or just out of school and entering the industry? What are a couple of things you would tell them?
I would say, if you want to have your own business, then want to have your own business. If that's a different thing to wanting to be an interior designer. And I think there's wonderful careers to be had within wonderful practices as well. So I think we've got an awesome head of design, and I love that about her, that she loves this industry, she loves this career, and she's had a really amazing career working in other practices. It's not the be all and end all to have your own firm. Absolutely not. There's a lot of ups and downs to that. It's wonderful if that's what you want, and you can embrace the challenges and look at them as a privilege, and have that, go on that journey. It's awesome if that's what you want. So I think it's just really important to look at what you love to do. Look at 10 years ahead and think, where would I like to be? What would I like to be doing? If you think you would like to have your own practice, what is it about that dream that you love? If the dream is to be designing houses and doing the work, then probably don't. Like, if you have your own business, you won't be doing it 100% of the time, guaranteed. So I think it's just kind of really looking at your strengths, as we said, play to your strengths. And also appreciating, like, it takes a team, and the team is that's the fun part for me. And that's the joy of having your own business, is you get to build the team around you. But it's a team. Everything is, a team effort. So it's kind of thinking about, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses, and filling the gaps around them, because everyone's that's sort of what's someone's superpower, and have them that whole right person in the right seat. That's when, everyone is living their best life.
It's when the magic happens, isn't it? Like, I think that's and I've had a couple of guests mention this, it's actually good leadership when you can identify what you are not good at, and going, I need someone to fill that gap for me, kind of thing.
Absolutely. There's some famous quote from one of the American presidents about knowing, kind of having the humility to know, what you're not good at, and then having the ability to step back and not interfere with the people who you employ around you to do that. So challenges.
And what are you looking forward to in your business in the next 12 months?
I think the product is, we have some really amazing projects happening as well. The store is super exciting, and custom is growing, and the product collaborations are just super exciting, because I think they take so long. And like a project, we could be on something for 4 years before we get to show everyone what we've been doing. And the product has been very much like that. And we've got a few categories and things we've been working on in the background really hard. And some of that we'll be able to start showing people in the next 12 months. That's super exciting.
Awesome. Sounds like a very jam-packed year at Kate Nixon. But I get the sense that you don't have quiet years.
I think that's been every year so far. We call it the rocket ship. We joke about the rocket ship ride. We're all holding on.
Definitely strap yourself in when you walk through the door at Kate Nixon.
We're never bored, that's for sure.
And how can our community reach out, find you, see the beautiful work that you do, and look at some of the beautiful products you have in your store?
So our website is the katenixon.com, and I will have a new e-com store launching very soon on there as well. And our retail store is in Bayswater Road in Rushcutters Bay. It's absolutely beautiful. It's an old 1800s building that we ripped out and renovated and restored, and it's really, really beautiful. So it's definitely worth a visit. And Instagram, Kate Nixon Official and Kate Nixon Store. Yeah, we're on Pinterest. We're even on TikTok, Beth.
Oh, wow.
And YouTube, if you can believe. We're embracing. We're trying.
You're embracing the social media.
I don't know how good it is, but we're having a go. We're doing our best.
Love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Kate. It has been, I could have talked to you, like I've got so many little scribbles here that I'm like, oh, so I could definitely talk to you for another hour. But thank you so much, Kate, for joining us.
My pleasure, anytime. Thanks so much, Beth.
I feel like I have learnt so much from my dialogue with Kate. I hope you found it as insightful as I did. A couple of things that I wanted to highlight. The EOS model that Kate mentioned and uses to run her business is such an interesting model. If you are growing your business or feel like maybe that quote that we talked about the business having a grip on you, if you feel like that applies to you, it's definitely something to have a look at. There's lots of great kind of concepts to just have a look at and think about, even if you don't go all the way into implementing the model as Kate has. Another thing that I thought was really helpful to hear was when you are submitting projects for a publication to magazine, don't be discouraged if the answer is a no. There could be so many reasons why the answer is no that has nothing to do with you and your project. You just have to keep going because one day that no will become a yes. I also think, as Kate mentioned, the issue around registration of interior designers and what that could mean for our industry is so important. It's not a black and white issue, and there are so many implications for so many of us and our studios. If you are not aware of the latest, make sure to check out the DIA website and their socials, as they have a lot of great information on the topic. I hope you enjoyed this dialogue with Kate, and make sure to come back next week to hear from Adam Jones from Quercus & Co. Have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you then. Bye. It is usually around this time of the year that we all start to think about what we are doing in our businesses and maybe some things we might like to do a little differently. I am sure a lot of you who are listening are currently trying to wrap up projects before the end of the year, and so thinking about a new software platform is at the bottom of the to-do list. However, if you can spare a few minutes, the team and I would love to show you how more time to design can transform your business and mean that 2024 is your best year in business, both from a project perspective, but most importantly, financially. For everyone who books in a demonstration before the end of 2023, we will extend the free trial period so that even if you are madly wrapping up projects, you will still have plenty of time to become familiar with more time to design and be ready to start 2024 with a bang. I will pop the link to book in a demonstration in the show notes. Thank you for listening to this design dialogue. I hope you have found it full of inspiration and helpful information to take into your design studio. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, consider sharing it or writing a review, as it helps us reach more people, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to unlock the power of effortless studio management and elevate your design business to new heights, please follow the links in our show notes to see how more time to design can help you build a better business. Have a great week, and I will see you for our next Design Dialogue.